What up? What's good? Put your First time doing this. So hit me with any questions you guys got. Could be trading related, non-trading related. Yeah, put the questions in the Discord. I made it unlisted. Um, so it's only available to you guys. So just keep it centrally located there. What movie am I watching tonight? Uh, I'm going to see Flash at 7 p.m. How did you learn those nerves of steel? This trade you're finishing up now is great, but how did you learn to sit through and be so patient to let it work out? Honestly, just over time, your nerves just become numb. So, similar to trading or similar to like going to the gym and training your muscles, training your brain to stay patient takes a lot of time, right? You don't go to the gym, work out abs and see a six pack in 2 days, right? It takes months upon months upon months, years upon years, and so on and so forth. So for 2.5 years I did not stay patient. I did not follow my plan. So it took a while for me to do that. And at this point, it's just a habit. I make a plan, right? I come up with a setup, make a plan around it, and I just follow it. If it works, great. If not, whatever. I set up my targets and my stop loss and just wait. It could take, 5 minutes to hit a target. It could take 5 hours. It could take 5 days. It could take 5 weeks. Whatever happens, happens. I have no control over it, and that's totally fine. So it just comes with time. What color underwear am I wearing? It's a very good question. Gotta check actually. I'm wearing black Old Navy boxers that have pumpkins on them. So I'm a little bit out of time with those, but we'll uh, we'll just keep it at that. Are you using order flow in your trading? I do not use order flow in terms of analysis. Um, but I do use the price ladder to place my orders. So sometimes if I see that there's like a massive bid or a massive offer at a certain level, I'll literally manually write that down for the future, like for near term. Let's just say today, if I saw a massive order at 43.85. I'll write it down saying June 23rd, massive order at blah blah blah, and then I'll use that if necessary for some analysis down the road. So, um, but in terms of active order flow, no, not really. Um, Boxer briefs, yes. I don't wear straight boxers. I basically only own boxer briefs. Best book for trading psychology? Honestly, I wish I was a big reader, but I'm not. Carmine's the better person to ask. He's read a lot of trading psychology books, and he's got a way better idea than me. I really don't know. Um, where do you work? I work in New York City, um, near Wall Street. It's for a prop firm. Um, so that's that. What are the pros and cons of working for a prop firm versus independent trading? The pros are the fact that we get to kind of share ideas. Like, let's just say the guy behind me, if he's looking at, S&P, I'm looking at NASDAQ, this guy over here is looking at the VIX, right? It's tough to really have an eye on everything at once. So, Doug behind me will be like, yo, there's a big buyer coming in the VIX, right? So if I'm not looking at the VIX at this moment, I'll have him in the back of my ear, and so I'll use different people's analysis, and I'll try my best to kind of combine everything. But so that's the pro, right? Having multiple eyes on, across screens, to kind of, come up with ideas. And cons, Uh, so the biggest con about being with these guys is, let's just say Doug or John or fucking Matt, whatever, has an idea. Say they want to get long the S&P, and my analysis is telling me to be kind of short biased. The biggest con is learning to trust your gut and not let the other people influence you. So sometimes, or especially in the beginning, I'd have, people chirping saying like, "Oh, I'm getting long crude oil," and if I was technically short, or if I was bearish bias, but then I had these guys saying to get long, it was tough for me because I'd be like, "Oh, maybe these guys know something that I don't." So uh, that's the biggest con, in my opinion. But I've learned to kind of, um, you know shut down their ideas. If I have a very strong idea one way, I trust my own intuition. What are some of your interests and hobbies outside of trading? I like to eat. I like going out to different restaurants, trying new spots. I like walking around different neighborhoods, hanging out with friends. Nothing crazy. I like to travel, but not nothing out of the ordinary. You mentioned a low of day trap for everyone that shorted that today. Do you ever look for potential trap zones on a chart to guide a trade thesis? Oh my God, all the time. One of my favorite trade setups is trading traps. So a lot, because usually with traps, you'll get a significant move, because if one side is underwater, right? Let's just say today's example. If you have retail traders chasing a low of day breakdown, right? They're going to get underwater, meaning, right, they're going to be off sides, and that tends to, trigger an aggressive move the opposite way. So I love capitalizing on, trades where you have one side of the spectrum that is off sides. That's my favorite setup. What is your daily routine? How much time do you spend on the weekend studying charts and news? Daily routine throughout the week, I usually get up at like, usually physically get out of bed at like 6:15, shower, get changed, do all that kind of stuff. Get to the bus stop at like 7, get on the bus, get to my office at like 7:45, sit down, kind of analyze my charts, go through any plans that are coming close to hitting. At any given time, I probably have like 15 trade setups in the queue where I'm just waiting, right? I have all of my levels planned out. I'm just waiting for price to get down to that entry point. So when I sit down, I like to kind of see where all of those setups are. If price is coming near there. One sec, I'm getting a call. One sec. Yo, correct. Yeah. Yo. Honestly, it doesn't hurt to just put it in your maps, and I don't know exactly, to be honest. Just type in All Cheval. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not far. I mean, it's like a 15-minute walk. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's right near there. I don't know exactly where it is. All right, peace. My fault. That was one of the other traders. Um, let's see. Is your prop firm hiring? No. So I was the first hire in 8 years. A lot of the guys that work here used to work on the floor. They used to be market makers for different, you know, different assets. Everything from the dollar index to natural gas. So a lot of these guys are old. I'm 26. The next youngest person in the firm is probably 37. So it's like an older school prop firm. They don't really look to recruit newer traders. Um, what do you do at the screens when you're not physically clicking buttons to trade your setup? It's a good question. I'll either catch up in the Discord, right? Answer DMs. I'll talk to the guys around here, just kind of just bullshit. Um, I'll go on TikTok. I'll go on Instagram. Um, I don't know. I just try to keep busy because the moment you one second, let me try out. The moment you the moment you have your eyes glued to the screen, that's when you tend to make irrational decisions if you're bored and you know you're just staring at the screen. Uh, you're more inclined to take forced trades. So that's the last thing I try to do. But yeah, I just have a little routine where I just go through different things. I'll go on Hinge sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Go through emails, check out different news outlets, check out different articles. Nothing crazy. How do the oils and gold correlate with each other? You know how VIX inverses S&P. Is there something like that in gold and oils? If you're barely going to start trading oils and gold, how would you start? The gold and the oils, if anything, if the dollar index is making a parabolic move, they'll do the opposite. So if the dollar index is breaking out on an important level, really has momentum going, then you'll see the oil and the gold come off and vice versa. But if the dollar index isn't really doing anything, they really don't have much of a correlation, in my opinion. How do you journal your trades, pen or paper, or a software? I like doing it manually, literally writing stuff down in a journal. My firm has, on a monthly basis, they email me everything in terms of on a software. So everything from broken down in like days. They'll show me my Monday performance, Tuesday performance, Wednesday, so on and so forth. They'll do it asset by asset, like show my statistics in like crude oil, S&P, the VIX. So they'll do all of that in terms of statistics, and I look at that obviously, and I'll compare it to different months. But in terms of like trading, like actually going through and journaling individual trades, I like to write stuff down manually. I'll do before, during, and after. So before, I'll manually write down entry, target, stop loss, risk reward, and then my thesis. And then during, after the trade triggers, I'll kind of write down stuff that I didn't notice beforehand because hindsight's always 2020. So some things I'll notice during the trade that I did not pick up beforehand. So I'll just write stuff like that down. And then after I'll write, maybe my position sizing was too small, too big. Maybe I was targeting a level too far out based on conditions, like current market conditions. So I'll just try to write down stuff like that to kind of peek at for future trades. Would you say trade bigger time frames or are you more of a short-term trader? I'm a mix, honestly. I don't value some time frames over others. Um, I'm a pretty open-minded trader, so some of the trades that I take are short term, some are long term. I don't really have a preference. Would you say you trade? That's that. How often do you review your trading journal? Every day, 100% every day. I mean, the only day that I really take off is Saturday. I try to just kind of take a step back and not do any of that. But mm, you know, all the other 6 days, I'll look at the journal for sure. Do we put our questions here on YouTube? Yeah, here, definitely in the Discord main chat. I'm just looking at that. I got your beer and burger. I'll be sounds good. Hit me up. The shorties calling. I wish they were. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Um, yeah, well, Cheval has a pretty mean burger. I agree. What's your college degree? I have a finance degree. Quite frankly, it really didn't do much in terms of what I do now. But when I started college, I did not really trade much, and I didn't know I had such a passion for it. So that was kind of like my backup plan. I knew I wanted to do something in finance, but I didn't really have a specific branch within the finance field. But I do have a finance degree. Is it true that eating at least 2 hot dogs per month makes you a profitable trader? I'd say at least three. I think two is pretty low. Um, what do you want? What do you want out of life beyond trading? What are major life goals? It's a good question. I would like to travel at to a few different spots that are on my bucket list that I haven't been to. Um, Definitely want to spend a lot of time with family. Have them experience those same vacations or experiences. I'm pretty simple, so a lot of my stuff isn't materialistic. Some people would say like, "Oh, I want to own a yacht," or "I want to own this and that." I'm more of an experienced guy as opposed to materialistic stuff. Seeing any hinge baddies this weekend? Physically, no, but on the app swiping through, I'll see 30 a day minimum, and I'll like all of them, but there's nothing in return. So unfortunately, I wish that was the case, but no, nope, no shot. I know you trade more than ES and NQ. Are you on or putting on or taking off trades every day? No. Um, I'd say in terms of actually managing trades, it varies, month to month. Some months I might take, 10 trades. Other months I might only take like three. So it really depends. Today I scaled out of that one lot in ES, and then um, I also had one other active trade in natural gas, and I scaled out like a couple lots there too. So today was pretty boring for me. Imagine you have only 2 hours a day to trade within the regular trading hour session. Which 2 hours in the time span would you choose? Um, I would do 9:30 to 10:30 and then 1:30 to 2:30. So 9:30 to 10:30 is the first hour of the equity trading session, and then the 1:30 to 2:30 is the last hour of the commodities session. Commodities close at 2:30, so usually 1:30 to 2:30 has a good amount of opportunities. You trade mostly options or futures? Definitely futures. I'd say futures are like 80%, options maybe like God, maybe 5 to 10%, and then the other is like crypto and currency pairs. Um, you mentioned that it took you a certain time to get the brain muscles trained for doing the right things and staying disciplined. Were there any specific steps you took to have the shift or to force you to act differently? Yeah, so like over time, obviously time is was one of the biggest factors. But it really comes down to like just really setting down those rules. So like I would physically write on paper saying like, okay, you have your plan, right? Prepare the plan before you even enter the trade. Okay. Once you have that plan, and I'd manually write it down too. Like I would put entry equals boom, targets equal boom, stop loss equals this, risk reward equals this. Like physically, manually written before me. Then I would just say, okay, whatever happens in between, I do not give a crap. I am going to follow whatever is on this piece of paper. And this would be very small size. This was before the very profitable stage. So I would just take one lot, one micro lot of the S&P 500 futures or, options, two, $300 on SPY options and just focus on following the plan. Okay. Once I was able to focus and follow the plan that I had predetermined, without emotions, then I slowly scaled up. So let's just take S&P micro futures for example, right? If I was doing one, I would do that for say a week. If I was chilling with one in terms of had zero emotions and was able to follow the plan from start to finish, win or lose, I'd go to two. Once I was able to do that without emotions, three. And I would just slowly keep doing that over and over. Let's just say I went from 5 micros to 7 and I felt anxious at 7. I would know my threshold is 5 or 6. So I go back to 5 or 6, work on that. And then once I felt myself being, emotionally calm and, I had the ability to trade without emotions, then I'd go to 7, right? So it was very, very small stair step approach, right? A lot of traders, right? They'll have a great week, a great month using one lot of the S&P and say, screw it, I'm going to use 10 now. They'll go from 1 to 10, not knowing that their emotions cannot handle it. The moment you do an amount of size that your emotions are not ready to handle, that is when you will make irrational decisions. Trust me, I've been there, I've done that numerous times. So you have to take it slow. If you are patient and you take it slow, I guarantee you'll see much better results over time. 100%. Probably subjective, but how many years blown accounts do you have? Or do you think it would be time to call it? Now, it depends. If you look at it like that, you're never going to make it because then you're going to have that number in your head saying, oh, Dylan said 5, so I'm at 5, so I got to be done. It depends on the person. I blew 3 accounts over a 2.5 year span, whereas people probably blow 3 accounts in a month, so everyone's different. If the moment you compare yourself to others, whether it's me, Carmine, John, Joe, Bill, whatever, that's the moment you're making a mistake because what does that do for you? If you compare yourself to me, right, and say, okay, Dylan blew 3 accounts over 2.5 years, give me a benefit. What does that do for you? It does nothing but puts pressure on you. So screw that. Don't do that. Don't never ever compare yourself to others in terms of money, in terms of blown accounts, in terms of anything. It doesn't make sense. Does your firm mind you're in a Discord? Um, there's some things that I don't share because you know, it might be confidential to some folks in here. But no, I focus on what matters most, and I find the balance between me focusing on my career here and me sharing value to you guys. So no. Your pay is based on commissions, right? Yes. What time of the month do we switch the VIX from one month to the next? I go on the CME website, or no, it's the CFE, CBOE. Um, their website gives me the dates. So um, when I'm done with this, I'll check. But usually I'll say to you guys, hey, by the way, VIX is expiring, blah blah blah. And just know a lot of people went to the September contract in the VIX because the S&P is on the September. It doesn't work like that. S&P rolls contracts every quarter. So you go from June to September and so on and so forth. The VIX expires monthly. So you go from June to July to August to September. It doesn't have to follow the same exact that S&P does. So it's not quarterly, it's monthly. So I got to check, but I go on the website and they have a calendar, very very easy to read. How do you identify traps? Sorry if you said it already, but I signed in right when you were speaking about it. Really comes down to just finding a level that a lot of people are looking at. So usually retail traders will like to trade low of day and high of day because that's what you'll see on like YouTube and like Instagram or TikTok. A lot of people preach like, oh, just buy low of day or buy puts under low of day and buy calls over high of day or pre-market high, pre-market low. So those are the ones that a lot of folks look at. So when I see price aggressively break below, say the low of day, and then I see the VIX trading at a discount than it was prior when S&P was at that level beforehand. To me, that's a trap. Like I know that retail traders are going to chase one because it's failing or it's breaking below the prior lower day, and two because it's aggressive. Right? People love seeing aggressive moves up and down. When retail traders see aggression, they chase. It's impulse. I used to do it too. So when you have that combination, it's just this. I'm just assuming that people are getting trapped. I mean, I really don't know for sure, but it's safe to assume depending on the scenario. So there's a lot of ways to identify, but that's just one of the ones that I do. I'm thirsty as hell. I don't have my water. How many Lambos do you own, and can I borrow one for the weekend? I own 0 Lamborghinis, so the answer to that one is no, because I do not have any to give. What is VIX? It doesn't show in my broker. The VIX is the volatility index, futures. I've talked about it many times. If you want like an actual like educational explanation, just go on Google and type in VIX futures, and they'll explain how it's calculated and how it's derived, how the numbers are derived and stuff like that. I like using Investopedia for definitions and stuff like that because they do a really good job breaking it down. So just type in VIX futures Investopedia, and you'll see it. And then your broker, I don't know what broker you use, but unless you're using like a Robinhood, they should have it. From my understanding, I would imagine most um, brokers have it. So what you're saying is 2 hot dogs is more important than a finance degree for trading. 100%. Any key books for a new or struggling trader should read? Like I said, I'm not a huge reader. I recommend asking Corman for that one. But what I do know is um, the most you're going to learn is by doing hands-on. Similar to like let's just say football, right? If you read 100 books about football, right? Different plays, different rules, different players, you name it, you read it about football. I guarantee you can know everything about the sport, but unless you go out there and play it, you're not going to be good. And the same goes with trading. You can know everything about trading, right? Different patterns, different psychology tips, different, everything, different candlesticks, different stocks, different this, different that, dividends, whatever. If you don't actually do it and you just read books, you're not going to go anywhere. So you have to put your emotions, on the table in order to really learn, because it's 80% psychological and 20% like technical. So books aren't going to do you any good if you rely solely on them. Based on the stats, which equity do you perform the best on? It's a good question. I don't really trade equities enough to really know about that. The equity I trade most is probably FCX, which is a copper play. The reason I trade it a lot is because I just buy it for like long term and then I sell options against it to kind of dollar cost average. So I would imagine that that would probably be it, but uh I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know. Probably subjective, but how many years blown accounts do you think I think I already did that one. When will you fly me out to Bora Bora? Better question is when I'm flying myself out. I'll go, and if I like it enough, then we'll talk. How often do you review your journals? 6 days a week, just not Saturday. Hinge is the shit. My lady on there, and we now have a 7-month-old. 3.5 years later. DM me some tips, man, because obviously I'm not doing something wrong. Are you more of a swing trader or a day trader? So I never get into I never enter a trade with the mindset of, oh, this is going to be a swing trade or a day trade. It's more so I just enter with a plan, right? I have my targets set out. I have my entry, ready to go, and then I have my stop loss ready to go. So it could be a day trade if I get stopped out in the same day, or if my all my targets hit in the same day. I don't know. So essentially, what I'm saying is, whenever my plan plays out, that's what it's going to be. So it could take an hour, it could take a day, it could take a month, it could take a year. I have no idea. I just stay patient and wait for those orders to hit. But I would say more of a swing trader. Definitely last year's swing trader, but this year has been more short term stuff because um, the markets haven't been trending as well. Commodities have been trending pretty well, so I'd say more of a swing trader in that. How do you feel about funded accounts? I've never done one. When I first started, they didn't exist, from my understanding. I probably would have done one back then if they had. Back then, I actually traded for three different people. I had three different like mutual friends that I traded for. Um, so um, i- if you are in a position where you don't have the capital and you're you know financially in a tight position and you want to trade futures, I think they're a very good idea. But I don't know enough to really give you a solid answer. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, in order to get exposure to the futures market and you're tight for capital, I think it's a good idea. How does your firm feel about you in a Discord? I answer that. If the confirmations for a trade does not include a fundamental confirmation, do you still take it? Of course, 100%. I'd say, let's just say, take all of my trades in every market. I'd say I'd probably say 65 to 70% do not have a fundamental confirmation. If it does, great. If not, no problem. Do you use any ICT concepts in your trading? No, but I'm sure a lot of what I do has a lot of similarities to what they, you know, teach. So I'm sure some of my concept are, overlapping with their concepts. So maybe, but not specifically ICT. I've never really gone through like the learning aspect of that. What amount in emergency funds do you say is okay for someone to go full time who is single, no kids? Of course, after a year of consistent profits, really depends on your lifestyle. If you're someone who has low overhead, right? Say you're living with your parents, you don't really have a car payment, then obviously your emergency fund is going to be way less than someone who's living on their own, or who has car insurance, a car, stuff like that. So this is a tough question. It really is. I would save up for at least 2 years worth of payments, bills, and I think that would be a safe bet. In your earlier stages of trading, what was the thing you struggled with most that you had to overcome? Definitely patience, because I was one to force trades big time. I would wake up every day like eager to take a trade. Even if there wasn't any good, solid opportunities, I would still trade because I was hungry for that action. So definitely the patience aspect. Patience, lack of patience, and the lack of preparation too. Like I said, I would wake up and I'd see something breaking above like pre-market highs and just freaking get into calls. Did not have a plan. I just wanted to get action. So 1000% those. And I did it for so long that it was tough to break that habit because going from, being very eager to trade random setups to transition into being way more selective and patient, it took a while to make that change. Um, any advice on scaling up? Still trading 1 to 2 contracts per trade and wondering what metric I should use for scaling. So yeah, I talked about this a little bit before. A lot of people say, "Oh, when I make $5,000, I'm gonna scale up." I don't think it should do anything with the money aspect. I think more so it has to do with the emotional aspect. If once you have the ability to follow your plans without any emotions, that's my cue that okay, I could size up now. Okay, so if you prove to yourself that you can follow your plan and trade without emotions, right? Without feeling antsy, without feeling anxious for, you know, let's just say 2 weeks to a month, then you scale. And if you're doing 1 to 2 contracts per trade now, don't go to 10. Go from 1 to 2 to like 4, right? Then once you have the ability to trade without emotions with 4, then go to 6, right? Go very, very slow because the moment you go outside of your means is the moment you're gonna, uh, go. You have a better probability of making irrational decisions. Okay, so take it slow. How do you have more than one target when you only use one contract? I hate when I see my trade work to second target and me not having the position. So truthfully, you can't. If you do one contract, you can only have one target. So just work on setups, right? Work on coming up with setups that are feasible, right? Let's just say the S&P right now. S&P the last couple days have had really, really tight trading ranges. So if you get long at say 43.80, you shouldn't target 44.50, right? That's a 70-point move. Could it get there? Of course. But work on doing uh you know work on trading setups that have a better chance of getting to their target. So in today's trading environment, I would do, something like a 20-point target, because it's much more feasible to hit, right? Reward do like a 20-point reward versus of, like a 7-point risk, like a 3 to 1. I recommend doing larger risk reward parameters when you have a small account, just so you're giving yourself more cushion. um, and then, when you do one contract, try to build a base and do two and just slowly, do that. But you truthfully cannot have more than one target if you do one contract. I was in that stage. It sucked. I agree with you, but it's just part of the journey. Um, based on the stats, which equity do you? I already said that one. If you didn't hear it, um, I I got to go to the next one. Are the only setups you take based on supply and demand? No, definitely not. Um, supply and demand is one of the core parts of my system, but I do not limit myself to only trading supply and demand zones. No way. I would say, um, I don't know. I couldn't even really give you a number of like in terms of percentages of how many trades I take using supply and demand zones. I have no idea. But no, the answer to your question is no. What do you say to people who hate on day trading or call it gambling? Look at this. You see this? This office that I'm in? These guys have been trading for fucking longer than I've been alive. So, um, there are day traders out there who do very, very well. So the folks who say that it's gambling or hate on it, they're just, you're always going to have haters in any type of business, right? And if you come up with a new business idea, you're going to have people say, oh, that sucks. It's not going to work out. Prove them wrong, right? Use that negativity to, make you want to succeed that much more, just so you could say, hey, man, remember you called it gambling? Well, look at this. So you can't reason with those people. There's always going to be those people. And if you think about them too much and say, oh, maybe they're right, then you're not strong minded enough. Are we going to be able to see this Q&A later? I have no idea what I'm doing right now. This is my first time doing this. So I don't know if this is recorded. I have no idea. I I have no idea. So I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. Do you use market profiles and footprints? I do not. I don't use footprints. I'm not knowledgeable on them at all. In terms of market profiles, I use them somewhat but on the latter. My brokerage platform has them. I really don't use them much in analysis. I kind of just use them like day to day. If I'll see like, oh, there's a trap seller below this level on S&P, I'll kind of use that in my analysis. If I see there is more aggressive bids or more aggressive, people hitting the ask. So market profile, kind of, but for footprints, no. I'm sure they work well. It's it's not part of my system. What exactly is VIX price upon SPX options? Yeah, so it's directly correlated to S&P 500 options, right? The derivatives market. Um, if you want a very good explanation, just type in VIX pricing Investopedia and you'll get one. But yes, it is correlated, directly influenced by S&P 500 options. Yes. Why go the firm route versus your own money? Pros and cons. I talked about this before too. The biggest thing is the resources. Um, learning around these guys is priceless. Um, I don't rely on these guys to learn. I was already profitable before I got here, but having this type of environment is very beneficial because I utilize it, right? If I'm wondering about something, I'll ask these guys, hey, what's going on here? If I see this, what does this mean? Stuff like that. So I have resources beyond belief. And the owner of the fund too he's been trading for years. I mean, like probably double my age. So, I could text him at any time and just say, hey, like, I'm wondering about this. So the resources is the biggest thing. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Which assets do you trade the best? Also, nice hat. Thanks for the hat. I got it last week. Asset I trade the most or the best? I don't know. I mean, I do know based on statistics. Um, Probably the VIX. I rarely trade the VIX in terms of like spec trades, but I've made this year I've made the most money on the VIX. And I've probably had the best win rate on the VIX as well. Last year it was probably gasoline, mainly because of the volatility we saw last year with the Russia-Ukraine war. Opportunities were like endless. So yeah, those two. So VIX futures this year, RBOB, gasoline last year. To what extent do you review your trading journal? It depends. It depends, what trades I took, right? If I took a not a bad trade, I never categorize any of my trades as bad because all of them are predetermined, pre-calculated, and pre-prepared for. It's more so if I didn't notice anything before I took the trade. Like I said, hindsight's always 2020. So after the trade is done, I'll notice something that I didn't realize beforehand. And I'll always just write that down and try to really engrave it into my brain so that I don't miss it in the future. Also, if I'm using an amount that was maybe too big or too small relative to the trading conditions. I'll make note of that. Really depends, truthfully. Um, do you actually backtest or just review actual past trades? Yeah, I backtest stuff too. Definitely review past trades for sure. Every trade I take is reviewed for 100%. Backtest, yeah, I'll backtest based on like conditions, market conditions, like if say natural gas is downtrending, how did it react the last time it downtrended, right? If that was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I look back to that time and see how it reacted to like previous supports. Did they act as resistance going forward? How did it react to like Fibonacci's or stuff like that? So yeah, I definitely backtest. One sec. Gotta answer this text. Um Any updates on getting your hedge fund manager on a Q&A? I could probably make that happen if enough people are interested in that. Yeah, I could probably make that happen. We'll do something like this where you guys could just, you know, rip away. I could probably make that happen. Any good source to learn more about Bookmap? That's a question for Carmine. Carmine uses Bookmap. I personally do not. It works very well for his style of trading. For me, I don't. I could use it, but it's not necessary. I think if I did use it, I would put more emphasis on micro trends and micro, like short term context, which I'm fine with doing the way that I do it. So, if you want to learn more about Bookmap, definitely hit up Carmine. Um, do you pay attention to major level of SPX cash index or the gaps it has while trading future? Yeah, I always look at the SPX cash. I don't really write about it in the Discord, but I always have like macro levels on it that I definitely use as a gauge to figure out relative strength versus weakness. Um, but yeah, for sure. How can us retail traders get access to the resources that institutional traders have? I know we can't get much, but what do you think retail traders don't utilize enough? A lot of people think that there's a massive edge in this stuff. The biggest thing for me that I have access to that you guys may not is like newsletters that but even like I don't let the newsletters affect my overall bias. Um, Sometimes there's like numbers, there's like statistics out there that I might get that you guys don't see. But honestly, Twitter is a really good source. Some of the stuff that I see in institutional newsletters, I see on Twitter too, because some of the people that are getting it, like me, are also putting it out on Twitter. So, eh, truthfully, not much. I mean, don't think that you cannot make it as a trader because you don't have institutional resources. That's not the case. I promise you. So if you think about it like that, you're wrong. It's not like that. I know you and Carmine don't use indicators, moving averages. How about your boys in the prop firm? Do they use any? Um, so there's 21 traders at the firm that I'm at. There's 9 of us in the New York City office that I'm in. Out of the 9 that I see here, I'd say like 6 don't even use charts. They use like the price ladders and stuff. The 3 that use charts, including myself, I think one maybe uses moving averages, but he looks at them as like an inverse. Like if he sees like a golden cross or like the deadly cross or whatever the hell it's called, he'll look at that as like if there's like absorption, like he'll kind of he'll kind of reverse engineer shit like that because he knows that retail traders are looking at a golden cross and they're buying. So if he sees that there's a lot of selling pressure absorbing that buying pressure, he'll do the opposite. So they don't. I wouldn't say they no. They definitely don't rely on the indicators. They'll just use them more for like slight edge. I don't know. Is it a healthy habit to adjust stop loss to break even? If so, this is a good question. If so, when do you do so? Doesn't it skew the risk reward and wouldn't be that be against your plan? Okay. One of the biggest, um, like, what's the word? I don't even know what to call it. But one of the biggest flaws that I see is say there's a trader that enters at $100, right? They enter long at $100. The moment they see it moving in their favor, they'll put the stop loss to break even. Okay. Think about this. The one main thing that a stop loss is, right? It's an area that invalidates your thesis. Okay. So, how is it that your stop loss can be at the same place that you entered? If the entry is the area that your thesis is starting, right? That's where your thesis begins. How are you going to make the stop loss then your entry price? Like, how can that be? How can your, all right, I'm fucking, one sec. I'm very passionate about this one. Stop loss should be put in an area of invalidation. Okay. So if you enter at an entry point, that begins your thesis. How can it be that the beginning of your thesis is also the same as your invalidation point of the thesis? It makes zero sense. It's terrible. Don't do that. What I do is I'll move my stop loss up to my average price once my first target gets hit. Okay. So you have to understand the way that I do it. Okay. If I get into S&P longs at 4,400, my first target isn't 4402, right? I give myself enough room to breathe, right? If I get in at 4,400, my first target's probably going to be like 4425, right? Once that 4425 gets hit, then my stop loss becomes my entry price, okay? Then if the second target gets hit, the stop loss becomes the 50% retracement between the entry price and the first target. Okay. And I just keep doing that. Then once the third target gets hit, I move my stop loss up to the 50% retracement of the second target and the first target. And I just keep doing that and doing that. So hopefully that makes sense. But moving up your stop loss before your first target gets hit is horrendous. And if you're only playing with one contract, just wait for your target to get hit. If your target doesn't get hit, the stop loss should stay where it is. Now, if your target is like 100 points away from S&P, right? If you enter at 4,400 and your target's 4,500 and your stop loss is like 43.50, right? 2-to-1 risk reward. And it gets to like, I don't know, 44.87 and then starts to roll over, then I would move my stop loss up to like 44.25 to kind of give it some breathing room. But you don't want it, an 85-point game to go red, right? So it's different in that aspect. But do not move your stop loss up to your entry price the moment you see it start working in your favor. That's terrible. Doesn't make sense. Very, very contradiction. Don't do it. Sorry that was long. I'll make a video on that, and I'll do it. Very, very clear. What do you think of Lotto Charlie? Is he a good trader? Sorry, he is pointing a gun at my head. Wow. Hopefully he didn't pull it already because I took a while to answer that last one. Um, I don't know him too well. I see him in the main chat here and there. He'll say, "Oh, I'm getting long here. I'm getting short here. I'm getting long here. I'm getting short here." He's all over the place for me. But I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that. No more questions for me. Thanks for taking the time. Awesome. I hope it was helpful. Can you predict something like if a day will be more in a range or yeah? So can you predict something like if a day will be more in a range or if it will be more of a trend day? Yes. If so, how? Um, it really comes down to mapping out key areas. So if the VIX is at a very low level and it's kind of either slowly going lower and lower and lower or moving sideways, then right off the bat, that means that the volatility is being priced to be lower, right? And with lower volatility, you have more range bound days in the S&P. So that's one thing. Second thing is if S&P has a really strong level, zone, whatever, a really strong area at say 4420 and then a very strong area at like 4400, right? In between 20 points, chances are it's just going to ping pong up and down in between because they're strong levels. So heading into a day where I see very very strong levels in a tight range, I could also speculate that it's just going to ping pong back and forth, kind of make up its mind, in like a day or two after. So I would speculate that it's going to range for a little bit. The other thing, the third thing is if the S&P has a massive move up or down, right? Say the ATR, right? Average trading range for like the week is like, I don't know, 30 points. If you see the S&P move 100 points in a day, right? 3 times the daily average in the near term, that next day is likely going to be a range bound because what happens is retail traders will see a massive move up or down, they'll miss it, and then they just automatically assume that the very next day is going to be another big move, right? They have FOMO for the day before where they miss the bit large move, so they enter blindly in the second day, hoping that it's going to be another big move and they don't want to miss 2 days in a row. And usually the S&P will chop because both sides of the option chain will get depleted, right? Calls and puts are going to get crushed because you're not going to have any continuation either way. So those are the three things that I do. Do you believe that the statistic that 80 to 95% of day traders fail or are not profitable? Yes, but it's there's an error to this fact. Yes, I agree with this, but that includes the people that try it out from day one. Now, if you said that 80 to 95% of day traders fail after trading for a year, I would disagree with that. That number is so high because the folks that try off the rip, like they're like totally novice traders, very, very, very beginner traders, chances are they're in it for the money aspect. They saw their friend get into puts, make 400% on Apple. They posted it on Instagram and they want a piece of the pie, right? These people are getting into trading because they want to make money, right? Those are the folks that are in this, statistical group that should, they're weeded out very, very quickly. So, like I said, yes, I agree with you on that, but there's an error to it. So, hopefully that makes sense. Do you spend much time reading the tape or focus mostly on key levels? You have very little time reading the tape. I mean, I do sometimes if I see a large amount on, like, if one of these guys around me saying, like, yo, like, there's a massive buyer in crude oil. I'll look at it and then I'll mark that level. I'll mark that price down. Let's just say there's a massive buyer on the ladder for crude oil, like 69.50, right? Let's just say the bid and the ask size are usually 15 and someone is bidding 700 lots at 69.50. I'll write that number down on my journal. I literally have a journal in front of me, right? And I'll write it down saying, on June 23rd, there was a massive buyer at 69.50. I'll look at that level in the near term, and maybe I'll use that number in the near term if I have another setup that I'm watching. I'll say, okay, there's a massive buyer on the 23rd of June that was defending that, so I'll use that information to my advantage in the future. Stuff like that, yeah. Are you SIE certified? No. Um, so you need the certifications if you're like a broker dealer or like a hedge fund manager, stuff like that. In terms of prop firms, we only have one trader for the most, or one funder for the most part. I don't deal with client money. I don't have like 100 clients, such as a hedge fund or like a broker. I just trade for the owner of the firm. So, I have an obligation to trade for him if I work for this company. But I don't need any certifications in order to do that. Um, my hinge advice: switch up the target. I can't read that. I'll Nothing has worked for me. Can you open up your own hedge fund so we can just join you? Um, Technically, yes, but honestly, I wouldn't want to because with a hedge fund comes a lot of responsibility. Not that I don't have responsibility here, but I have one client to tend to. I've met the guy once in my life, my boss. Um, so sometimes he calls me if he's wondering something or asking me for something, whatever. But with a hedge fund, say you have 100 clients, you have these guys calling you, emailing you, saying, "Hey, how's it going? What are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? How's our performance this week? What do you do?" Like, no, if I had people hit me up nonstop, fuck that. No way. I respect the hedge funds, the hedge fund managers that do, but it's just not for me. I wouldn't want to do that. What steps did you take to get into the firm? What kind of trading record do firms need to see to even consider putting you on my dream job? I have a YouTube video in the Discord that I talk about, like, kind of like how I got in this firm. So I recommend checking that out because I believe I answered your question in that. And then what kind of trading record? Depends. This firm might be different from another firm. Depends what they're looking for. Sometimes firms are looking for new systems that they don't have other traders trading to kind of give them um, more of an edge in different areas. Sometimes, right, you'll have traders that trade momentum based. You'll have traders that trade arbitrage stuff, right? Um, if you stand out and you have a different edge from the other traders there, I think that's a very good place to start. Um, what do you use for back testing? I just do the back testing manually. I don't really like write code or anything like that. Like I said, I'll just go back in time on the chart and just kind of go back years ago on the chart and just see how price action was back in the time. I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't write code or like do anything too crazy. Um, do you know anything about prop firms? Yeah, I mean, I work at one. 7 Points Capital T3. Yeah, I know. I have friends, I have colleagues that trade for other prop firms. 7 Points, I'm familiar with them. I don't know anyone personally that trades there. And then T3, yeah, I'm familiar. Thanks for what you do. I appreciate you saying that. Do you meditate or anything like that for your mental? I do not. I don't even know how to meditate. I feel like if I shut my eyes, I'd knock out. I'd fucking wake up 3 hours later. Um, for my mental state, I walk. I love walking, like whether it means just around like my office or near where I live or different neighborhoods. I like walking. I wish I went to the gym, but I don't. I feel like that would be good for my mental state. I mean, I do. I'll go to the gym for like I'll go like fucking 3 4 times a month. So the gym membership loves me because I pay each month and I barely go. So, but I walk. I like walking. Why don't you trade your own money? Like I said, I prefer being here with the resources that I have. I prefer having these guys in terms of the social aspect. If I traded for myself and for my own money at home, I get bored. I mean, I have you guys to talk to and stuff like that, but um, I just prefer this. It really comes down to preference. Some people prefer this, right? Because that was one of the first questions I had for these guys because these guys are some of the best traders in the country. And I was like, yo, like you guys have been trading here for 20, 30 years. Like, why don't you just do it on your own and save that small profit share amount? Like you could just take home everything. And they say the same thing. It's the social aspect, it's the resources, it's having the ability to kind of bounce ideas off one another. So it depends on the person. I prefer that. Does your prop firm bring in trading psychologists to help progress in the mental side? No, I know other firms do that, and it's a great idea. But no, we just kind of do it amongst ourselves here, but we don't have like an actual psychologist come in. No. What's for dinner? It's a good question. I'm going to a movie at 7:15 and it's like a dine-in movie. So they bring you out. It's like a full service. I'll get like a drink, and I'll probably get like I don't know. They got a pretty good grilled chicken sandwich, like avocado. They got like a lemon basil mayo on that thing, lettuce, tomato, onion. I think that's what I'm going for. I'll do like a popcorn too. So that sounds like a good dinner to me. What's a day in the life look like for you? Um, I said this before. I wake up at like 6:15. I get ready, shower, you know, brush my teeth, do what I gotta do. Go to the Get on the bus at 7 a.m. Get to work at like 7:40. Sit down 7:45. Kind of review charts, and then I'm basically sitting here for like the majority of the day. Um, you know, I'll try to keep busy, but I'm for the most part I'm sitting here for the majority of the day. I gotta bounce soon. I'm just letting you guys know. I'm gonna meet my colleague for Jinx before this. Before I go to the movie. Are you big on reading the tape? I went over this too. Not really. It's not necessary for my system. Sometimes I do it, but nowhere near as much as Carmine. The only time I do it is if someone's here. I think the maid's here. The only time I do it is if if I see like a big buyer, a big seller on the tape, or like absorbing a ton of orders, then I'll do it and I'll write down that I'll make note of that level where that activity is happening, kind of what Carmine does too. And then maybe I'll use it in the near future if I have a setup in that area. I'll have that level written down to kind of act as more of an edge in terms of context. Can you add that to your daily commentary if you feel like it's a range? Yeah, I always do. If I feel that it's going to be a range day, I'll definitely put it in there for sure. Any chance on a video going over your TA on equities, mainly the leaders, anytime soon? Yeah, I could do that for sure. Uh, what order flow tools do your colleagues use? They just use the broker that we use. It's called Trading Technologies. That's what they use. They don't use Bookmaps or Bookmap. See, Bookmap is good because it gives you a different visualization. They have the same information that you guys see on Bookmap, but it's just shown in a different manner. So that's what they use. They use the one that I just said. How many monitors do you have? I have 6 monitors, and then I have one laptop right here. So if you want to count the laptop, I have 7. This guy has 6. He has 6, and this guy has 8 over here. But most of the people here have 6. Um, how do you manage or plan out your lifelong term with trading income, insurance, retirement? Do you have yeah? So I have a Roth IRA that I've been contributing to since I was 19. I also have life insurance. I have money in a hedge fund that operates in a different state. Um, and then I do some private equity deals too. So yeah, I try to diversify. I'm unable to tune in right now to get my questions. Can you explain what the JPM collar is, and is there any significance to it? Yeah, there's significance to it. It basically means, the collar trade is like where a lot of their derivatives are tied to in terms of a strike price, right? So if they're normally if they need to hedge against some of their big positions, they'll have a derivatives trade, an options trade using a particular strike price with a high open interest. So a lot of people say once they roll out of that trade, it kind of opens up for price to make a large move through that area because they're not hedging there anymore. If you type it in on Google, if you just type in like JPM collar trade explanation, you'll get a good explanation. I would imagine. Any advice for traders with a 9 to 5? Yeah, this one's a tough one. But I recommend at least if you cannot trade during the day, I recommend at least coming into each day with a plan, like a hypothetical plan. Like, oh, if price gets here, then hypothetically I would do this. Right? Let's just say for Monday, if you got to work Monday 9 to 5, um, physically right, if S&P 500 breaches below 43.83 and the VIX futures break above 1650, I want to get short on any retest at 43.83, targeting 43.40. Just making something up. Once you have that plan written, it's set in stone. So now you kind of have emotion involved, right? You have your emotions tied to the market, right? So then, after your 9 to 5, you get home and you could see what happened, right? Did your plan work out? Did it not work out? If it did work out, what happened, right? Write down what happened. If it didn't work out, write down what went wrong, stuff like that. So that's what I recommend people do. Because the people that just kind of look at it during the 9 to 5, like you're not really getting any, you know, benefit out of that. So I would definitely say write plans heading into each day manually and then see what happened. Um, please don't ever stop with the food pics. I will not. I promise you that. If you guys are on Instagram, I post food pics all the time on my stories. You smoke cigars? I do not. I've never smoked a cigar in my life. I know Carmine does. I've never smoked weed in my life either. Fun fact. Um, Never smoked cigs, cigars, weed. I'm just not into it. Um, Interviews with your colleagues would definitely be interested. Yeah, I'll definitely try to set that up for sure. I know Carmine wants to do one too. Do you know what the average win percentage of traders in your office? I don't know exactly. I know for myself, um, this year I'm about 50-50. Like I think a little bit below 50%. I believe I'm like 49% this year, but I'm still profitable because of risk management. Um, but the other guys, I really don't know like exactly. What type of computer are you using? Um, a lot of the guys here use it's a website called digitaltigers.com. A lot of us have the Stratosphere Pro. We like that website because we don't really, I like to consider myself technologically challenged. If you had a gun to my head and said, build a computer in the next week, I'd be done. I wouldn't even know where to start. So Digital Tigers, they have custom computers. You literally get on the phone with them. Great customer service. I believe they're based out of Atlanta. You call them. I literally have the guy's number, like straight up. I could call him on a Sunday. He'll answer. You call them. You tell them what you are doing, right? And they'll say, "Oh, this is what you need. We're gonna build it this way," and they're not there to like rip you off. They'll say, "Okay." Like if I say, "Oh, I want this one," they'll be like, "Listen, you're trading. You're doing this, this, and this. You don't even need that." So I like the transparency. I like the honesty, and I love the customer service. So um, I that's whatever the hell is on their computer is what I'm using. I don't know the actual specs. Do you recommend to trade ES futures or the SPY options? Really depends on your style. Truthfully, it depends how big your account is. It depends what style of trading. Are you more short term? Are you more long term? It depends. In terms of your question right there, it's too broad to answer. Yeah, what watch you wearing? Just an Apple Watch right now. I like to track my steps throughout the day on like weekdays to figure out if I'm, you know, being active. I got 6,667 steps right now. So I try to hit like 7,500 each day. Do you have, can't answer that one. I'm going to call it there. Shorter term scalps, uh, both work. ES futures or SPY options work well. Both would work fine, honestly. In that case, it depends how big is your account. If your account is large, I would I don't know. If your account is small, definitely SPY options. But if it's large, I don't think you have you know, either one is good. Um, but for options, theta time decay is killing. Yeah. So if that's the case, then do futures. If you can afford doing futures, do futures. But yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna go get a drink with a colleague before my movie. And if you guys enjoyed it, cool. Thanks. I appreciate you guys watching. And also, um, give me some ideas on what videos you want to see in the future, like what YouTube videos you want me to do. So I'll definitely make sure that I do some of those. But that's it. Peace out. I'm ending it.